Hey everyone, Jen here with a new episode coming at y'all called Shiplog 0227. On this first episode, we will be starting out the series of Star Wars Vader Dark Visions. So I just want to start by telling y'all that this is an amazing book. It's actually, so far from what I've read, I'm about halfway through it or so. Or since there's only 5, I guess I'm a little over halfway through it. But this tells like many tales of or related to Darth Vader. So it is actually, it's very fun, I have to say, with some of these and how it's kind of presented in different ways. It almost is like none of the story is actually supposed to be connected except through Darth Vader. And I mean, I just kind of sat down and had time to read, and I thought, okay, well, the next one will kind of be based off of what I am reading. And then no, it's actually like another short story for Darth Vader. And the next one, another short story. So I don't think any of these ones are actually connected except that they take place around Darth Vader. But I think the funny thing about it is that it's called Dark Vision. Some things don't actually seem like they're very dark until the very end when you get done with the issue. So on this first one, we have a no-named kind of narrator that lives on this planet. And I can't remember what planet they were on because they only mention it once. And it's not one that I've really heard too awful much. But all the people have kind of like these solid faces, and they're all blue. And the only thing that we do know is that there's a big creature called Ender, which looks like a cross between, I would say, like a solid gray, great white shark and the creature from Cloverfield, the first movie that came out, not all the other stuff that came out afterwards, the found footage one. So that's what this creature kind of looks like. And they have like one day that they call the Awakening, which I felt like part of this was really weird, or they call it the Slumber. The Awakening is when they go back underground. So it's kind of ass backwards in that sense. But we're all getting it from this one kid's like point of view. Now, another reason besides this creature being on the planet that we have, everybody living underground, is the fact of we have this as a main area where the all the ships fight. The two groups, the Rebels and the Alliance, everything is fought around this planet. And that's another reason why they're underground, is so nobody gets hurt. But as we see with our narrator of the tale, he's actually outside trying to pick some fruit and everything. He's like, that's really enjoyable because we get to go out, we get to pick this fruit, we get to have stuff, and they kind of get a day. So whatever they can kind of take back underground for, I think the hour that they're above ground. And I don't know if this happens once a year or once a month, something. It doesn't happen very often, though. But we do kind of have all this stuff happen with it, where they are also trying to dodge Ender. And she's huge. To give you perspective, Darth Vader is a little bit bigger than her eyeball. So imagine that, that's how big she basically is. She's able to put him in her hands and go from there on what she's going to do. But from what we have here, we have Darth Vader and his ship that is clearly on the other side of the battlefield away from his ship. So he can't really fly it in and bring it back. And he gets attacked or whatever, and his ship just basically needs maintenance. So he's like, instead of trying to fly it through and get shot, I'm just going to fly it down to this planet. So he flies it down, drops his ship off, basically, and decides what he's going to do from there. Now, in dropping off his ship, I think he kind of crashes it into Ender. So there is some stuff with that. But she wakes up. She's really pissed. We have where she is trying to basically get him, possibly eat him, and take him out. You know, all these other people are really scant about it. And everybody else leaves except for this one boy that we have. And at some points, you know, Darth Vader is made to look like a hero in this, I will say that. But he starts his fight with Ender, you know, stabs Ender in the eyeball, and the kid is telling the story because now it's kind of like this big legend, and he's not known as Darth Vader in this, he's known as the Black Knight, which is kind of funny because, you know, the Black Knight is also another moniker for, like, Batman. Of course, we have the traditional sense of the Black Knight being this knight that's always around during the medieval period and, you know, wrecks everything, passes his mantle on if he needs to. I believe there's maybe a Black Knight in it's the Bride movie, The Princess Bride. I think there is like a Black Knight in that too, maybe. Some other representations, you know, here and there that there are these more powerful characters in things that are the Black Knight. You know, they lead bands of bandits and things like that. You know, they are just this force to be reckoned with. And that's Darth Vader in this. So we do have a part where the boy is going to get stepped on by Ender, and Darth Vader kind of uses the Force and throws him out of the way. Now, does that mean anything? I feel like that's a question that we need because the boy kind of says that, but he doesn't know if Darth Vader is basically like his savior. But that's what these people view him as by the end of this. We automatically know that Darth Vader is not going to go out in any kind of way with this, at least for now. But he does continuously fight this creature, and the boy, like I said, keeps calling him the Black Knight. From here, we do move forward a little bit to the this Ender beast thingy, you know, is basically their god. So for Darth Vader to stand toe-to-toe with it is a very big thing. And we do have parts where the boy is like narrating this and he keeps calling Darth Vader's lightsaber the Sword of Fire, of red fire, and that he has these supernatural magic abilities, which is really funny when we think about it because we know what everything is. You know, it's the Force and it's a lightsaber, things like that. But to this planet, I guess they've never seen anything like that. They know spaceships and what all that stuff pertains to, but they've never seen, I guess, a Jedi or a Sith. Now, the other thing is from here, we do have where this fighting does just continue. You know, Darth Vader does keep hacking and slicing and everything at this creature that he is, you know, going after, which also kind of leads us to believe, or not leads us to believe, but kind of, I think, makes us think a little bit on, you know, how many of the other creatures like this has he gotten to? And it really makes you think that there's not anybody that can really handle a Jedi or a Sith when it comes down to if they got on the wrong side of them. Now, that being said, you know, we do have kind of some stuff like with the Clone Wars episode where they did have to kind of worry about a couple of the creatures. But with those, it was the same kind of shape, the same body height. You know, it wasn't this unthinkable creature that is, you know, the size of a Star Destroyer ship or something like that, you know. Well, I mean, I guess it's not really that big, but one of these could probably take down a Star Destroyer. It's just huge, it's massive, and Darth Vader is going toe-to-toe with it. So we do get, I think, some good info on this, and we get a little weird seeing Darth Vader on the opposite side of all of the stuff that he usually is, because we always see Darth Vader, you know, even though he's cool, he's still a bad guy. And in this, he's actually a savior. Thus, that is what this chapter of this thing is also called for issue 1, the Savior. So let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, we are back with ship log 0227 with the Star Wars Darth Vader visions. Give me 1 second. Star Wars Vader Dark Visions. There we go. I'm so sorry. Issue 1. This one is called Survivor. But this is where we are covering these little stories for Darth Vader and how he is portrayed in many different ways and just the dark side of all this stuff. Now, with this, we have this little planet that there is a blue boy that is watching this fight with the god of the planet, Ender, and Darth Vader actually fight him. They've never seen a Jedi or anything else before, and they also don't really know anything besides what they would interpret as magic. They don't know anything else, and the only thing that I would say that they probably do know is spaceships, maybe, and other stuff like that. When we first start out in the chapter, the boy does tell us, you know, it is a bit peaceful, but not all the time, and that there are things that fall down from the sky on the other side of the clouds. So we do know stuff that happens up there, and it has to happen quite often because they know about it. But he says that there's a battlefield on the other side of the clouds that we just don't know. And to catch everybody up, Darth Vader's ship got hit. Instead of being able to fly across the battlefield back to his main ship, fleet, everything else, he ends up landing on the planet to let them pick him back up. Now, as he does come down, something happens, and I think he crashes his ship into Ender, like I said, the god of this planet, this big gray monstrosity, and ends up fighting this thing. Now, he is wrecking the shit out of it. We will say that. The boy thinks at some points that he's already dead. You know, the armor that this thing is in, that the body is just there. And that the Ender God basically has its new plaything that is a toy and metal armor. And it's not really that easy, that simple. Ender is not that easily able to beat Vader, because actually it never happens at all. But we have, you know, these fights and everything else. We have the boy where him at the same point this fight is going on, experiencing it kind of firsthand because he's the only one that didn't go inside. Vader moving him out of the way, him trying to make a run to this reservoir, and he's like, we will swim just straight down and get out of this. There won't be anything else. We won't have to worry about it. And nothing ever comes of it. But he does know that Darth Vader is doing all this stuff with his red sword, or his sword of red fire, and hacking and slashing at this Ender creature. Now, the thing that I really like in this is the way the kid says all the stuff. He tells you the details of how when Darth Vader stuck the lightsaber in its eye, the juices in the eye started to basically cook the rest of it. How Darth Vader's sword, as it cuts through things, you hear the gurgling of the blood as it goes. You hear all this different stuff as the fight is going on. And I love the depiction and interpretation of that, because the artwork, we're not seeing that per se, but we are seeing this other stuff happen. And then another part is, I think the cover for the book of this is where we get our art piece from the story. Because the creature at the beginning kind of looks a little bit like a thestral, which is the kind of like dark nightmare horses in Harry Potter. That's what these things kind of look like a little bit. I wouldn't say spot on, and they don't have wings. But that is kind of what this thing looks like. And Darth Vader does kind of have it. I don't know if he mind controls it at all or anything like that, but he does ride these things into battle with the Ender to try and kill it and defeat it and everything. And he doesn't actually care about it, obviously, because there are parts when this creature attacks and he jumps off the back and it leaves it to its demise. But we do have a lot of the good imagery with this that I feel like. Now, as he goes farther, we have where he goes on like a rampage onslaught of this creature, because it just kind of won't leave him alone. And so, sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, the imagery of this, of everything that happens to this creature, of everything that Darth Vader does, is kind of explained in it. And that's one of the things that I really love about how this is played out. Now, Darth Vader comes around to the very last thing with this, and we hear the boy basically say that with Darth Vader closing his fist, this creature has nowhere to run. It has nowhere to do anything, because he has basically force choked this giant creature to lift its head up as well, exposing its neck. And he kind of darts forward and cuts into this thing's neck. And again, we have the imagery of the blood gurgling as the lightsaber, boils it and does all this other stuff. And this creature falls over dead. So in this one, it is seen by the boy and everything, and the rest of the clan at the end of this, that we see that Darth Vader is a hero. He did save them from this beast that kept them underground all the time, Ender, and that there's just a lot of stuff going on with that. Now, we also have where Darth Vader must have talked to somebody on his comms or whatever, because we don't really, besides where he crash lands, we don't actually have very much other stuff of him actually talking, which is another thing I like out of this. There's not very much talking from him in this. This is all dedicated to somebody else's encounter, which I think is most of this book as well. Because the other ones, we don't seem to have too much communication with him either. Now, we do go forward from here, and he climbs onto the top of his spacecraft, and one of the Star Destroyer fleet flies down close enough where it can basically beam him up, Scotty, even though it's a Star Trek reference. It basically tractor beams a hold of the spaceship with Darth Vader standing on it and pulls it back up into the ship. Now, again, I don't know if they 100% know what spaceships are. I mean, they know what these big ships are, but they called his TIE fighter a fireball. I don't know if that was because it was on fire when he landed it, or that's just what they think it is in general. But we do have this whole part that is just amazing with that. And then the boy depicting everything, again, around the fire, telling the story of this. And it really makes you have this kind of like campfire legend story, like Viking tales or something like that, legends and myths and all that. That's the feel that you get at the end of this, I feel like, because he does pull out this sword, or he pulls out a stick, the boy does, of fire, and he swings it around and tells him how Darth Vader, stabbed it into the eye of the creature and did all this other stuff, and really like plays it out. And it's just amazing. I love that aspect of this short story right here. And then also thinking about it being that way with one of my favorite movies, Reign of Fire, they have to play stuff out for all these kids and whatnot. One of the stories that they actually play out is Star Wars. So it is pretty funny, I feel like, as we go with this, that is kind of how it all ends. It seems not real life, because with Star Wars, like, we see that, we know that it's all this, but then to kind of flip it on its head and turn it into a campfire story that people share and people have, that they will tell of Darth Vader not knowing who he is and the evil that he's basically done, but knowing that he's basically saved their whole planet. And this is just something, that I think is weird that we won't get over, really, because obviously the rest of everything else that happens is kind of dark and bad. But we do have here where he has defeated this giant, monstrous creature. I wish we really knew more of what this creature was, but they just call it the Ender, so I mean, that's what we'll go with. But there are a bunch of the other creatures that are around, dog creatures and things like that. So to know this kind of planet inhabitor would be a little cool, because I don't think I've seen it before. But anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Check out our other podcasts. I hope you really enjoy this ship log 0227. And maybe one day we'll talk about what that means when we get to it. But anyway, I'll catch you later. Thanks for listening. Bye. As always, see you next Tuesday.